Am I the a-hole for serving my husband's family mac and cheese for dinner? My husband, Asian, and I, American, welcomed our firstborn 4 weeks ago. The baby is healthy, thank God, but I'm exhausted, haven't fixed my hair, barely able to shower and cannot sleep. My husband's family had been pressuring us to visit to meet the baby. I tried to hold them off as much as I could, but yesterday, I was surprised to find them standing on the porch. Turns out hubby invited them for dinner. I was embarrassed and felt like I wasn't ready for visitors, judgmental ones at that, cause the house was a mess y'all. Anyways, my husband sat with them while I fed my son, then later I asked my husband if we should order takeout for dinner. He said no because his parents would find this rude and unwelcoming. He suggested that I go inside the kitchen and prepare something, anything long as it's homemade. I said fine, then went and made some mac and cheese. The reason I prepared this meal is because of how easy it is. Once I served the family, my husband's mom looked at me and was appalled. I noticed something was wrong. She asked if I really found it appropriate to serve her and the family mac and cheese. I asked why not, and she went on a rant about how disrespectful this was and that I clearly have no experience in what is right and wrong when it comes to hosting. I said, excuse me? Who said I signed up to host an expected visit from them? And she took it as in I didn't want them there. Her husband said they were just there to finally see the baby that I kept them from seeing for an entire month. That's a whole month of his life they missed out on. We had an argument and they decided to go home. My husband said that deciding to serve his family mac and cheese was more offensive than serving them nothing at all. I told him I was too exhausted to cook their traditional feast that I was forced to learn from his mom. He took offense and said that I was being mean and disrespectful towards not only his family but his culture. I went inside the bedroom to stay with my son. My husband stayed on the phone with his family for an hour, then kept giving me the cold shoulder and refused to eat what I cook in support of his family. I understand how some guests might find it offensive, especially his family. But I was just trying to make a quick homemade meal like my husband wanted. What's wrong with mac and cheese? This isn't a culture clash, these people are just a-holes. There isn't an Asian culture I'm aware of that doesn't practice some form of postpartum confinement where it is expected that the new mother do nothing other than rest and bond with the baby. If they were so traditional, they should have showed up with food, offered to clean the house, and run a load of laundry while they're at it. Not the a-hole, by the way. Am I the a-hole for rubbing it in my boyfriend's face how much I make in front of our friends? We've been together for 2 years, living together for 1. When we were on our first date, he asked if I pursued a higher education after high school, which I didn't. I explained that I failed high school and he couldn't believe it. He was a high achiever and couldn't possibly understand how somebody could fail high school. He finds it amusing to tease me about it, and truthfully it doesn't bother me. I have a good job and I've done great things despite not having a traditional education. At the very worst it's a little annoying, but I refuse to lose sleep over it. Tonight we had friends over and the conversation turned towards high school and what subjects we did. I listed off what I studied in my final year and he began to laugh, saying that it didn't matter because I failed anyway. Then, since he'd had too much to drink, he took it a little far and started poking fun at how only idiots fail high school. I tried to play it off, but the alcohol got the better of me as well and I snapped, responding, "That's why I earn $48 per hour and you earn $26, right? Because you did so well in high school and that set you up for success?" Him and one of his friends said that I'd ruined the night, but a couple of my friends said he had it coming. Not the a-hole, he did have it coming. Not to be the leave-in person so early LMFAO, but if he did that on the first date and has been an asshole about it ever since, why stick around? You can find someone who doesn't find it funny to demean you as fun. Am I the a-hole for throwing a tantrum upon finding out I'm getting another sibling? I'm 18, female, I'm the middle child of 9. 7 out of the 9 of us have severe physical and mental disabilities, and I firmly believe my parents kept popping out more in order to have a healthy child they can force to help out. Those 2 healthy children are me and my twin brother, Jake. 9 kids, 7 of whom are severely disabled, and the other 2 being financially dependent on you is a lot. My parents are shit broke, and me and Jake have been footing the bill a lot. The main current example I have of this is me and Jake were meant to be going on a week-long trip with friends that we had both saved up for, but sibling needed something and we had to give our savings up. We were going to move out recently, but the money we saved towards a deposit was also needed, and never paid back. Jake and I can't do any activities or go out very often with the global situation like this, so these were 2 things that were important to us that were robbed. The 9 of us ranged from 25 down to 3, and I was really thinking my parents were done popping kids out because my mom is 43, but no. Clearly not. They dropped the bomb on me on Saturday, and I immediately lost my shit. I started saying things like they can't afford another baby, or more therapies, they can't even properly take care of the 7 that need it without relying on me and Jake and other family members. Eventually I told my mom just to abort it, and I kinda regret that, kinda don't. My mom started to cry, my dad started to shout back at me. I simply said, "Frick this, I'm leaving," and left on Saturday night. I'm staying at a friend's house, and my parents have been calling and texting. Can't be stressing mom out while she's pregnant bullshit. Jake did text though, said I was being a bit of an ass over this, and what I said to mom was uncalled for. He also thinks I'm the ass for running out when he can't do everything on his own. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, you and your twin need to move out, they've parentified you big time. That is abuse. Am I the a-hole for making my eldest daughter babysit even though she is child-free? My wife and I have 3 kids. Tina, 19 female, Jason, 15 male, and Ally, 14 female. Late last year, my Sil passed away unexpectedly, leaving our niece Jenny, 4 female, orphaned. Her father is not in the picture. My wife and I, of course, agreed to take her in. It has been a huge adjustment for all 6 of us. Tina and Ally had to start rooming together. Ally is okay with this, but Tina has complained since we brought our niece home. In fact, whenever Jenny does anything typical of a 4-year-old that Tina dislikes, she will loudly and rudely comment that this is why I am child-free and will never have kids. A few weeks ago there were big changes in our childcare coverage, and now we lack coverage for about 2.5 hours Monday to Friday. Jason and Ally both agreed to take 1 day of the week for babysitting duties. When we asked Tina to take on the other 3, she refused, stating she is child-free and means it. I told Tina that if she won't pitch in to help the family by babysitting, then she was no longer welcome to live in our home rent-free. I told her what we would be charging for her room and board, and she had a meltdown. She did a lot of yelling and screaming, but when she realized I was serious about kicking her out if she didn't pitch in, she agreed to take on the 3 days of babysitting. Our relationship has been tense. Tina says I am not being fair because she has to take 3 days when Jason and Ally only have to take 1 day each. I explained it is because they are still in high school and both are involved in after-school activities while she takes college classes part-time and online while only working weekends. Also because she is an adult and the other 2 are not. She has also called me sexist and says I am discriminating against her beliefs. Am I the asshole for forcing my adult daughter's hand in this? Edited to add, we can't really afford an outside babysitter right now. This was the reasoning behind charging my daughter room and board. I currently pay her school fees, car payment, car insurance, phone bill, all of her groceries, health insurance, and utilities. I was charging her less in room and board than what her lifestyle costs monthly. If she doesn't want to babysit, she is free to stay here if she pays the amount we set in room and board. She would have to take on more hours at work to do so though. So, 2.5 hours a day for 3 days. A total of 7.5 hours a week multiplied by $15 an hour is $112.50 a week, multiplied by 4 weeks is $450 a month. So about $450 a month of babysitting in exchange for free rent, utilities, food and whatever else you might be covering. That sounds reasonable. Not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I won't come home if she replaces my dead brother? So I, 18 female, had a brother. He was the best thing in the world, but he died 3 years ago and everything changed. Dad left mom and moved back to Montreal, and mom changed a lot. She went from being the absolute best mom ever to either super strict or like super careless. Ever since I turned 18, she got even weirder. She had her girlfriend remove the door to my room. She's come into my room at night and started massaging my arms and legs like she used to my brother. He had severe muscle issues, or will cuddle like we did after my brother died. Oh, and she cranks up the heat so much all the time and says it's 'cause she's from Texas, but even though she was born there, she grew up in Quebec. That's just to let you guys know how much she changed. The only time she's normal like how she was is during our therapy sessions. That's why I look forward to those. But the worst part was that she and her girlfriend have decided to have a baby, and they're using one of those websites to find a sperm donor. At the time, they started focusing on guys who I feel my brother would have looked like if he grew up. And then, mom told me if they have a boy the name will be the Russian version of my brother's name, and if a girl, the female version. So, if his name was Michael, then Mikhail and Michaela. So, I told my mom she couldn't replace my brother, and we got into a fight cause of it. And then yesterday mom had a complete freak out. Apparently there was some children's book she used to read my brother when he was a small, and she wanted to find it for when she has another baby. But she couldn't find it. I offered to order a new copy off Amazon, but she wanted my brother's book. She went nuts after she couldn't find it, and when she found an old picture of my dad, she literally took her girlfriend's lighter and burned it instead. I don't know, I got scared, so I begged mom not to replace my brother and said I wouldn't come home from Montreal. I got into Concordia University, if she did. She got even angrier and started crying, actually called me an asshole for trying to blackmail her. I'm really confused. She's never said that before, so maybe I was acting that way toward her. Not the a-hole. Sounds to me like your mother needs some professional help as soon as possible. She isn't grieving appropriately. It isn't okay for her to take your door away or come into your room and touch you, in any manner, without your consent. If she isn't willing to get help, you need to get yourself out of this situation. Am I the a-hole for mistreating and kicking my fiance and his friends out of the house? My fiance Henry and I had our first child, Dom, 2 months old. The first month was very complicated, many sleepless nights and stress, nothing unusual. Now Dom is sleeping a little more, but we still wake up at night. Last Wednesday Henry asked if about 3 of his friends could come over on Friday for them to play and he could be free of responsibility for about 2-3 hours. I thought it was a reasonable request, because I already asked him for the same 1x and he was fine. As I know it gets noisy, I visited my mother with my baby and had dinner with her. It was time and I came back. They were still there and my fiancé pulled me aside saying they were having fun and if they could stay another hour. I reluctantly accepted. The noise wasn't too bad, less competitive game. I put my son to sleep after 30 minutes and I went to bed myself. After 2 hours, I, who is a heavy sleeper, woke up and right after that Dom woke up. I went into the living room, where they were, and I gave Henry a hard look and he spoke, no sound, for another 30 minutes. I accepted. I was too tired to think straight. It took longer to get Dom to sleep, he even needed a bottle. I went back to sleep, I didn't even see if they were gone. And I woke up again with noise and it was almost 2 a.m. Keep in mind that I went to dinner with my mother at 8 p.m. Just like Dom, who was already stressed since that first time. I stormed out of the room and kind of screamed asking if they knew what time it was and they started laughing. I told everyone it was time for them to leave and they and my husband started saying that another hour wouldn't kill me and that Henry deserved a break from being a father. I don't know if my fiancé was drunk, but he kept nodding saying he was having fun. They started pressuring me to stop being annoying. That's where the part that maybe I'm an ass begins. I was very annoyed with everyone. I opened the door of living room, main door, and said out loud for everyone to leave. Everyone was embarrassed and Henry was super embarrassed. He tried to retort with me and I completed by saying that since he wants to spend time with his friends so much, he should sleep with them tonight. Everyone left, my fiancé too, and I finally had a night's rest after putting my baby to sleep. I got a lot of messages from everyone that it was disrespectful to kick them out of the house. Henry said he had asked for a few hours to rest and I didn't know how to respect his request, besides humiliating him in front of his friends. For me it is clear that some clueless people have more than to go to hell, but I would like an opinion. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You agreed to 2 to 3 hours, gracefully acquiesced to an extension, and it went 6 hours before you blew up at them. If Henry wants to play into the wee hours with his buddies, he can do it at their place once in a while, but not where an infant is sleeping. Also, there's no such thing as taking a break from being a father and Henry needs to understand that now. Am I the a-hole for being openly rude and hostile at my brother's wedding after he excluded my husband? My brother and my family have always had some unknown issue with my husband. They don't like him so much but they are willing to provide when needed. We lost our apartment because of debts and my family offered to take us in. My husband was excluded from going out with the family under the excuse of your husband is working so he could save money for an apartment. We don't want to distract him. My brother's wedding was some days ago. I was told to let my husband stay home because again he needs to keep working so we can get our own place. Even though my husband said he had free time. I didn't want to leave him behind. I told Mom that I didn't want to go unless my husband come along. We either go together or we stay together. Mom was having none of it. She said this is my brother's wedding, if I miss it the entire family will be upset with me. I caved in after a lot of pressure. Here's what I did, since I didn't want to be there but had to go. I just isolated myself and refused to engage in any activity, nor take pictures, nor take part in toast. Instead I became somewhat hostile towards my family and had a frown on my face. Basically was so out of the mood it affected others. My brother tried to take pictures with me but I declined. They invited me to join the dance floor but I refused. Mom came to me and said I was behaving terribly, like a child that didn't want to come. I told her this is me at the wedding they insisted I attend without my husband. She started berating me, calling me pathetic to bring bad vibe and ruin the atmosphere of my brother's wedding and make the guests uncomfortable, all because in butthurt my husband couldn't come. Dad started asking me questions about whether my husband is giving me grief about it and if I was afraid of his fury. I ignored them and remained silent and kept a frown on my face. After the wedding ended, Mom said it was shameful and disgraceful that I behaved this way as my brother's only sibling. She said I ruined the wedding in a way and will have to apologize for acting juvenile. I went inside the room and shut the door. My husband said he understood my frustration but insisted that I should have just enjoyed myself and tried to not get my family upset with us. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. Except your husband. If you were going to act like that, you should have just stayed home. Am I the a-hole for calling my brother a lazy leech on my parents? My 23 male brother lives at home with my parents. He'll only cook for himself and other than maybe going to the gym, he'll spend his free time generally just wasting himself on video games, browsing through his phone, watching movies, etc. He has no job and no career ambitions and spends upwards of 20k 30k on trips, online shopping, and clothing a year. The only reason my parents allow this is because he got lucky. In high school and college, my brother was such an overachiever and the star of the family. He was so passionate and bright and had all these career objectives and ambitions. However, in college, he'd spend a lot of time on little side projects on top of his classes and internships and everything, and 2 of them happened to blow up and turn into small businesses that almost completely are passive and require like 5 hours per week to maintain. Because of the money he was making from this, and the reliability of how stable it is, he grinded getting his college degree and then just gave up and stayed at home. He was discussing this online with one of his close friends when I happened to overhear when I was visiting my parents. He basically makes around $400K per year pre-tax, and after taxes and all that and spending his $20K 30K, saves up around $260K in his bank account. His grand plan is to save up for around 10 years and then officially retire and do absolutely nothing for the rest of his life except maybe travel. That night I confronted him and told him that it was horrible to see him waste himself away like this. I understand that technically he can support himself, but money isn't everything and he's literally burning his life away. He's basically set himself up to do nothing but work out, travel, rock climbing, and stuff with no real work, and it's sad to see coming from his brother. He's also leeching of my parents by showing them it's okay to live a life like this. After I told him all this, he literally started laughing at me and said that he's not hurting anyone and just wants to live his life like this with no stress. The next day my parents basically told me not to feed him bad ideas, either they overheard or he told them or something. Honestly though, I don't think I'm in the wrong at all of this. I just want my old brother back, not this literal couch potato that has no ambitions except for do nothing for the rest of my life. So am I the a-hole? TLDR, my 23 male brother lives at home with my parents and wastes all his time. He used to have all these ambitions and was top of his class in high school and was such a brilliant person in college with all these career goals, and now it's such a shame that he's not using anything. I think he's being an idiot and wanted to see who is in the right. You are the a-hole. I hate to break this to you, but part of the reason people work hard is so that they can retire and do all the stuff your brother is currently doing. In his case, he managed to be able to retire very early. Good for him. Let him enjoy himself.